It all begins with Haruchika Isazaki, a determined high school student, mustering the courage to confess his love to Kiriyama, the girl he holds dear, pouring all his effort into this pivotal moment as he extends his hand towards her, yet just as he believes his emotions have finally reached their peak, something inexplicable occurs, and before he can fully grasp what is happening, he finds himself no longer on the rooftop where his heartfelt confession was meant to unfold but in an unfamiliar landscape, an open field bathed in ethereal light, leaving him bewildered and disoriented as he desperately calls out for Kiriyama, only to be met with silence and confusion, and then, as if his day could not become any stranger, a radiant, divine figure appears before him, introducing herself as Clementine, a goddess who has summoned him to this mysterious realm with a purpose only she understands. And as Haruchika struggles to comprehend the absurdity of the situation, she reveals that she has a request for him, a task he cannot refuse, much to his frustration and disbelief, for she nonchalantly dismisses his protests and informs him that he must save the world, a grandiose mission that feels utterly detached from his reality, yet despite his exasperation, he has no choice but to listen as she explains that the Demon King was recently defeated but left behind a troublesome curse, one that could unravel the balance of this world, and as Haruchika reels from the weight of these revelations, the absurdity of it all crashes down upon him. The Demon King's curse has robbed 7 destined mothers of their ability to love, ensuring that the next generation of heroes, meant to defeat him in 30 years, will never be born, and without love, there can be no relationships, no marriage, no future for the world, forcing the goddess Clementine to summon Haruchika, believing his knowledge of romance is the key to restoring what was lost, though he finds the entire situation absurd and refuses to accept such an embarrassing title as Love Master, demanding to know why this ridiculous responsibility has fallen upon him, yet Clementine remains firm, insisting that his expertise is exactly what is needed, though her assistant Jibril openly doubts whether he is truly the right choice, further frustrating Haruchika, who retaliates by calling Clementine a useless goddess, escalating tensions between them as they bicker. But as he reflects on his own experiences and knowledge, he smirks with confidence, declaring that seducing beautiful women is far easier than winning over those who are more guarded, a statement that visibly unsettles Clementine, causing her to demand an explanation, yet before she can regain her composure, Haruchika boldly closes the distance between them, forcing her into a flustered state as he presses forward with overwhelming presence, catching her off guard as he lifts her into his arms, making her heart race in confusion, unable to comprehend why she is reacting this way, and as he stares into her eyes with unwavering intensity, she finds herself weak against his charm, her defenses crumbling as he softly declares that she is simply too beautiful, sending her into a dazed panic, struggling to maintain her usual authority, but Haruchika, satisfied with his effect on her, steps back, leaving her breathless and shaken while Jibril watches in complete disbelief, realizing that he may actually possess the power needed for this mission, though Haruchika, with a smug expression, admits that perhaps he went a little too far, knowing full well that he has already begun to take control of the situation in his own way. With a calculated approach, the summoned protagonist explains the intricacies of personal space and how sudden proximity would only cause discomfort, but by provoking the goddess into moving toward him, he effortlessly enters her intimate zone while simultaneously making eye contact and synchronizing his breathing with hers, setting the stage for the next phase of his strategy, where he exploits the natural tendency of lovers to unconsciously match their breathing patterns over time, manipulating her body into perceiving him as an intimate partner through the release of neurotransmitters like phenylethylamine and estrogen, amplifying the illusion of romantic attraction and accelerating her heart rate in response to his presence. Standing with undeniable confidence, he knows that whispering in a deep, masculine voice will render resistance almost impossible, yet even as he reflects on the extensive effort it took to master such techniques, he cannot help but find it amusing how unexpectedly easy it is to manipulate the goddess, who appears flustered and vulnerable before him. Amidst her growing confusion, he shifts his focus to the greater challenge at hand, questioning whether conquering the 7 girls mentioned would truly secure his return, to which the goddess, after a moment of hesitation, solemnly promises that it will. With renewed determination, he accepts the task, sealing his resolve with a firm handshake, only for the goddess to dramatically reaffirm that he will not be able to return to his world until all 7 girls fall for him, leaving him with no choice but to embrace his role fully. With her grand proclamation made, the goddess abruptly takes her leave, passing the responsibility to Jibril, who is left exasperated by her sudden departure, while the protagonist, now realizing the immense burden placed upon him, processes the gravity of his mission. Jibril, determined to support him, enthusiastically pledges her assistance, suggesting a new title for him, but as he protests against being called Love Master, she persists in trying to find a suitable alternative, solidifying their partnership as he prepares to embark on the difficult journey ahead. the angelic guide eagerly initiates the next phase of the mission, summoning the reluctant protagonist onto a magical sigil before he has a chance to process his next move, whisking him away into the skies above an expansive medieval city where he flails in panic while the angel calmly reassures him of their trajectory, explaining that their destination is a prestigious knight academy in the royal capital, the very place where his first target resides, a girl of noble lineage born into a warrior clan renowned for their relentless battle against monsters lurking near the Demon King's border. As he struggles to comprehend the overwhelming reality of his circumstances, his guide casually informs him that his enrollment has already been arranged, that he will be attending as an exchange student seated directly beside his target, a revelation that further amplifies his unease as he protests his lack of knowledge about this world's customs and rules. His companion, however, remains unwaveringly cheerful, promising her unwavering support while revealing that only he can see her, leaving him to question whether this absurd plan could possibly succeed. Later, as they descend to the academy grounds, his guide teasingly questions his previous bold approach with the goddess, pointing out the contradiction between his intricate seduction techniques and his direct confession, flustering him into a defensive response before his thoughts drift to a bittersweet memory of his first love, a moment he swiftly brushes aside as they proceed with their objective. The academy's arena soon comes into view, where they spot his target engaged in a heated battle, a powerful young woman effortlessly dominating her opponent with skill and precision, her overwhelming strength forcing the hulking adversary into submission as the crowd erupts in cheers, confirming her as none other than Lady Marion, the formidable warrior princess whom he must now somehow charm into falling in love. Introduced as a transfer student, he enters the classroom, maintaining a composed and refined demeanor that immediately captures attention, leading others to speculate whether he is of noble or royal blood. With practiced control, he crafts his impression, ensuring he appears elegant and intelligent while subtly directing the class's perception. Seated beside Marion, he observes her closely, using his appraisal skill to read her stats and confirm her current romance value is 0. Recognizing the challenge ahead, he decides to make his first move during the next break, drawing her into conversation by complimenting her weapon, which she proudly reveals was custom-made by a master blacksmith under her direction. He presses further, skillfully using admiration to gain her favor, prompting her to open up and suggest they address each other informally, bridging the gap between them. With his strategy in motion, he inwardly notes that the most effective way to get close to someone is to highlight their strengths and validate their pride, manipulating her reactions as he begins weaving the foundations of attraction. Haruchika, confident in his ability to manipulate affection values, is baffled when Marion's remains at 0 despite his careful approach, his frustration growing as he expected a shift in her feelings, yet nothing changes, leading him to question what is wrong with his usual methods while his small companion reassures him that it is only the first day, urging patience, though the lack of progress continues to gnaw at him until he angrily presses for an explanation about whether the affection value system is actually functioning as it should, only to be met with uncertainty from his informant, who admits the situation is unprecedented, leaving him at a loss for a solution as he begins to suspect that Marion is an anomaly unlike the other girls he has encountered before, prompting him to test his abilities on someone else in order to confirm whether she is simply different or if something is wrong with his skills. And as he approaches a strikingly intense girl with confidence, she immediately reacts with suspicion, yet by the following morning he finds himself swarmed by admirers, proving that his charm works just as effectively as ever, reinforcing his belief that Marion is, indeed, unique, as all the other girls' affection values rise naturally while hers stubbornly refuses to budge, leaving him to ponder what it truly means to captivate someone's heart while reflecting on the ease with which others succumb to his influence, realizing that while his success is undeniable, the one girl who eludes him remains a challenge he cannot ignore, fueling his determination to understand her better, though Marion remains blissfully unaware of his frustrations, casually laughing as she offhandedly points out the artificial nature of his smile, catching him off guard with her perceptiveness, yet still showing no signs of being affected by his usual tactics, making it clear that she is unlike anyone else he has ever encountered before, forcing him to reconsider his entire approach as they move into a rigorous sword training session where he is once again faced with the vast difference in their abilities, struggling to keep up as the other students display remarkable skill, leaving him no choice but to imitate and observe in an attempt to grasp the basics, though his lack of experience is painfully obvious, earning Marion's amused yet somewhat exasperated critique as she swiftly exposes his weaknesses, her movements almost impossible for him to follow, making it evident that his physical capabilities are leagues behind those around him, despite the effort he had previously put into honing his body, as he watches her completely outmaneuver him, unable to keep up with her speed or precision, quickly realizing that the battlefield of combat is nothing like the battlefield of romance where he usually excels, and just as he is trying to process this revelation, a group of formidable students, led by the imposing Dean McAllister, appear before him. making it clear that they see him as an unworthy opponent, declaring that the only way for the fight to be fair is for 5 of them to face off against him at once, reinforcing the idea that he is utterly out of his depth in this world of knights and warriors, where strength determines status, and where his usual tactics hold no weight, forcing him to question just how much longer he can rely on charm alone when faced with challenges that demand true skill and power. Haruchika is quickly overpowered in battle, humiliated by a stronger opponent who mocks his weakness, making it clear he doesn't belong in a world ruled by strength. As he recovers, he notices Marion watching, her expression unreadable, but before he can react, the arrogant warrior shifts his attention to her, claiming it's time she accepts their arranged engagement, boasting that she should be grateful someone like him would take her as his wife. Marion's sharp refusal cuts through the air as she makes it clear she never agreed to this, nor does she want a future dictated by tradition, revealing that her family values strength above all else and that she was promised to him without her consent. She declares that she won't fight, not out of fear, but because she refuses to acknowledge a fate forced upon her, though deep down, she knows she's only delaying the inevitable. As tension builds, Haruchika is stunned to see her romance value dropping into the negatives, a sign that his usual tactics aren't just failing but backfiring entirely. The Academy whispers about her refusal to fight, questioning if it means she's forfeiting, while Haruchika, still processing the situation, ends up provoking Marion further. In frustration, she grabs him and fiercely declares her true dream, to become a knight, not a bride, while he realizes that winning her over may be far more difficult than he ever imagined. Marion's love level has reached an impossibly low -99, her frustration evident as she clenches her jaw in annoyance while Haruchika, unfazed by her glare, casually denies staring at her despite her murderous intent growing stronger with each second, and while his companion panics over the sheer level of hostility radiating from Marion, Haruchika simply wonders if the value can go even lower, his curiosity bordering on reckless amusement, but rather than retreat he confidently states that everything is prepared, his smirk hinting at a scheme in motion, and as the Academy erupts into confusion, the arrival of an enraged opponent signals the beginning of the next stage as a duel challenge is officially issued, sending Marion into shock as she demands to know what is happening while her supposed fiancé, seething with fury, demands an explanation, yet Haruchika remains composed, pointing out that since Marion's family values strength above all, her current fiancé may not be as qualified as he believes, an insult that immediately provokes him into accepting the challenge, and as Marion watches the chaos unfold, she furiously questions why Haruchika is interfering, insisting that this has nothing to do with him, but his only response is a smug remark implying that her fiancé is far from the strongest, a claim that further escalates the situation as the furious opponent accuses Haruchika of falling for Marion, yet Haruchika merely shrugs while Marion, barely able to contain her frustration, clenches her fists at the sheer absurdity of it all. But before she can argue further, the duel is set, 7 days from now, at a time and place of Haruchika's choosing, and as her patience wears thin, she stares in disbelief as he boldly declares that since she does not want to marry her current fiancé, he will fight in her place. His logic so baffling that Marion explodes with rage while those around them can only watch in stunned disbelief, unable to comprehend how Haruchika, who seemingly stands no chance of winning, steps forward with an almost terrifying level of confidence, as if he already knows how this will end. Marion furiously grabs Haruchika by the collar, lifting him off the ground in frustration, but he remains smug, telling her that even if he loses, she can still claim she didn't lose herself, only making her angrier as she demands answers while onlookers whisper about the situation, yet Haruchika, unfazed, tells her to train him for 7 days if she's so upset, leaving her momentarily stunned before she reluctantly agrees, forcing him through brutal training where she never holds back. Striking relentlessly as he barely keeps up, struggling under her merciless attacks while she berates him for his weakness, reminding him that if he fails to fight, he automatically loses, yet despite the exhaustion and pain he refuses to give up, enduring her blows as the days pass, until the final day approaches and Marion, though still annoyed, starts to wonder if he might actually stand a chance, but as she takes a bath, the pressure of the duel weighs on her, and she swears that if Haruchika loses, she'll kill him herself, determined not to let things end in failure as she prepares for the decisive battle. The day of the match arrives, and as the crowd roars in anticipation, McAllister sneers with arrogance, dismissing the duel as a foolish charade while Haruchika remains composed, knowing that winning isn't his goal but that he must fight or fail, and as the match begins, he launches into a crucial opening move, but McAllister reacts with terrifying speed, narrowly dodging the strike, forcing Haruchika onto the defensive as Marion watches with tense anticipation, yet his attack misses, and McAllister's expression darkens with rage as he calls Haruchika an insect and delivers a brutal counter, sending him crashing to the ground with the crowd erupting in shock and bloodthirsty excitement. but despite the overwhelming force against him, Haruchika forces himself up, smirking through the pain, provoking McAllister further as he calculates his next move while Marion, watching his relentless struggle, begins to question why he fights so desperately, and as he staggers back onto his feet, battered yet unyielding, a shift occurs within her, the undeniable pull of the underdog effect making her realize, for the first time, that she doesn't want him to lose. Haruchika, battered and exhausted, pushes forward despite the overwhelming odds, but the moment Marion, the one who despised him the most, suddenly shouts his name in support, his mind races with confusion as he wonders why she, who once told him to give up and accept defeat, is now cheering for him, and in that instant, as her emotions contradict her past actions, something shifts. The love level that once stood at rock bottom surges in an instant, stunning everyone as she cries out for his victory, shocking even herself as she realizes the depth of her feelings, and with renewed determination, Haruchika seizes the opening, striking McAllister with all his strength, bringing him crashing to the ground in a stunning reversal, the crowd erupting in disbelief as the underdog claims victory, and as the realization sinks in, Marion, overwhelmed by emotion, lunges at him, tackling him to the ground as he barely processes what just happened, the once negative love level now inexplicably rising, leaving everyone, including himself, completely stunned. Haruchika realizes that Marion's sudden change of heart is the result of the Franklin effect, a psychological principle where actions influence emotions, and because she supported someone she hated, her feelings shifted to align with her actions, causing a drastic rebound in her affection toward him. But as he processes this, Marion, overwhelmed by gratitude and emotion, thanks him sincerely, and before he can fully grasp what is happening, she pulls him into a kiss in front of the stunned audience, leaving him and everyone else in complete shock as she declares that she gave her first kiss to him, while he stammers in disbelief, trying to comprehend how things escalated so quickly. But before he can react, Marion, now fully convinced of her feelings, confidently proclaims that having her husband as her first kiss is the best, sealing their fate as she demands that he take responsibility, and as Haruchika's mind spirals, realizing he may have gone too far, Marion casually mentions that he will have to get stronger to convince her family, leaving him frozen in horror as he internally screams that he has overdone it. Haruchika, still overwhelmed by Marion's sudden affection, hesitates as she calls his name with a confident smile, but before he can fully process her intentions, she effortlessly lifts him into her arms, leaving him flustered and questioning her actions while she playfully flirts and insists that he should be listening to her, boasting about her beauty with a teasing laugh, and as he struggles to respond, the whispers and stares of their classmates intensify, some in disbelief that the same person who won so easily in the duel is now acting so affectionately toward Haruchika, while others glare with resentment, but Marion remains unfazed, proudly reminding Haruchika that she defeated McAllister and making it clear to everyone watching that he belongs to her, knowing that if she doesn't assert their relationship, more nuisances will appear, though she doesn't hesitate to add that despite everything, he's not all that impressive, leaving Haruchika both exasperated and speechless as she clings to him. But as he tries to comprehend how things escalated so drastically, she shifts the conversation, pointing out that despite his flaws, the one extraordinary thing about him is the depth of her love, a statement that leaves him even more bewildered as she passionately declares that he has now become the ultimate target of noble ladies seeking marriage, thrusting him unwillingly into a position of unwanted attention while he panics at how out of control the situation has become. Marion, determined to have her father accept Haruchika despite his preference for McAllister, contemplates a bold strategy, casually suggesting consummation as a way to solidify their bond, leaving Haruchika in a state of complete panic as he protests the absurd pace of her thinking, but Marion, amused by his reaction, only grows more playful, teasing him about his words while admitting she's strangely excited despite her past resistance to marriage, and as their teacher interrupts with an exasperated sigh, Haruchika barely manages to apologize before the conversation shifts to a more innocent proposal when Marion, now fully embracing their relationship, eagerly suggests they go on a date, catching Haruchika off guard as she lights up with excitement at the thought of experiencing something so normal and romantic, and before he can fully process it, she's already celebrating her first after-school date, making him laugh at how easily she transitions from battle-hardened warrior to an innocent girl reveling in simple happiness. And as they step into the lively streets of the capital, Marion rushes ahead with childlike excitement, calling for Haruchika to hurry as he watches her, realizing just how adorable she is when she lets herself enjoy the moment. And as they indulge in street food together, her delight evident as she savors each bite, Haruchika can't help but smile at how expressive she's become, though their fun is momentarily interrupted when she drinks something suspicious, reacting dramatically to its unexpected taste while Haruchika sighs at her recklessness. But the mood remains light as they continue wandering, Marion happily exploring the market while Haruchika observes her from a distance, eventually leading them to a scenic overlook where they stand together, the city stretching before them, Marion beaming with joy as Haruchika, despite everything, finds himself growing more and more captivated by the girl who once saw him as nothing. More than a nuisance as they stand together, taking in the breathtaking view before them, Marion smiles brightly, overwhelmed by the sheer joy she felt throughout the day, and Haruchika, pleased by her happiness, quietly reaches into his pocket, revealing a delicate trinket that catches her by surprise as she recognizes it as the one she had been admiring earlier, her eyes widening as he explains that he noticed her interest and got it for her, and before he can react, she lunges at him with a sudden embrace, her voice filled with excitement as she insists he put it on her, pulling him close with a warmth that catches him off guard, but despite his flustered state, he carefully fastens the necklace around her neck, his hands clumsy yet gentle as she giggles at his awkwardness, teasing him for his lack of finesse while he grumbles in protest, yet the fondness in her expression is undeniable as she softly thanks him, her voice laced with quiet contentment, and as they linger in that moment, she realizes with a sense of wonder that falling in love is so much warmer and more comforting than she had ever imagined, her heart feeling light in a way she never thought possible. With a radiant smile, bidding him goodbye with a cheerful promise to see him tomorrow, her steps light as she walks away, leaving Haruchika watching her retreating figure with a quiet expression before his companion's voice pulls him from his thoughts, reminding him that their mission is far from over, yet as the suggestion arises that they could leave her memories intact, allowing him to return to her even after pursuing his remaining targets, Haruchika remains silent, his gaze unreadable as he contemplates the weight of that decision. As the final exam results are announced, the numbers on the board spark reactions from the crowd, some sneering at the top scorer while others admire the determination it must have taken to reach that position, and in that moment of realization, a certain girl finds inspiration in his resolve, deciding from that day forward that she too would change, pouring her effort into a transformation that would redefine her entirely. And when the entrance ceremony finally arrives, he steps onto the school grounds not as the person he once was but as someone refined, composed, and strikingly handsome, his very presence drawing awed whispers and captivated stares from the students around him as they marvel at his overwhelming aura, and as time passes, his calculated charm and social awareness turn him into an irresistible figure, making him almost unbearably popular, yet despite the admiration and the endless attention, none of it truly matters to him because every change he made, every ounce of effort he poured into reshaping himself, was for one person alone, and when the moment finally comes, when he stands before the girl who had unknowingly been his guiding force, he doesn't hesitate as he looks into her eyes, his voice steady, his words direct, as he confesses his feelings and asks her to go out with him, but even as he takes that step forward, something within him stirs, a quiet voice reminding him that despite everything, despite all the effort and success, this isn't where he belongs, and as he acknowledges that truth, a new resolve takes shape within him, leading him back to the world where fierce battles rage on, where Marion stands undeterred against her opponents, her blade striking with unparalleled strength, her unwavering determination a force that no one can ignore. Marion stands victorious in the arena, her sweat-soaked form a testament to the sheer strength and determination that has carried her through yet another fierce battle, effortlessly defeating 3 opponents at once as they crumble under her relentless skill, the crowd erupting in admiration while the last of her challengers yields, breathless and defeated, yet even as her allies marvel at her continued dominance, they can't help but notice something different, something softer in the way she carries herself, a change that becomes even more evident as whispers spread of her unexpected decision to break off her engagement with McAllister, a move that would have once seemed unthinkable given the benefits it could have brought to both families, and yet, despite the curiosity and speculation of those around her, Marion only smiles, the warmth in her expression a quiet affirmation of the path she has chosen. But as she revels in the camaraderie of those who now see her in a new light, Haruchika steps forward with a quiet yet resolute gaze, his voice calm but firm as he bids her farewell, speaking her name with a weight that lingers in the air, and though she returns his smile, there is a flicker of hesitation in her eyes, as if something within her senses that this moment is slipping away, a thought that lingers even as she watches him turn to leave, her fingers tightening around the pendant he had given her as a faint sound reaches her ears, stirring something deep within. But before she can fully grasp what it means, the ever-playful voice of his guide calls him forward, reminding him that his journey is far from over, that this was but one chapter in a story that must continue, and as they set their sights on a new destination, the bustling port town of Kirkberg, Haruchika steels himself for the next encounter, curiosity flickering in his eyes as he learns of the girl who awaits him there, a beast-kin receptionist at the Adventurers Guild whose presence promises yet another twist in his ever-unfolding tale, and as he finally lays eyes upon her, the name Lily Fafner barely escapes his lips before he realizes that, once again, his world is about to change. Haruchika arrives at the guild and is immediately met with whispers and ridicule from the adventurers, who scoff at his decision to approach Lily Fafner, the infamous Death Lady, whose presence is said to bring misfortune, as they mockingly warn him that every adventurer she manages ends up dead, but instead of backing down he merely smirks, dismissing their taunts as meaningless superstition and boldly declaring that if this so-called jinx is real, then all he needs to do is break it. Leaving the onlookers stunned by his audacity while Lily herself, hesitant and uncertain, can only stare at him in disbelief, and when he extends his hand toward her with unwavering confidence, his words send her heart into disarray as he firmly states that he wants her, not as someone to fear but as someone to stand beside him, and though she stammers in protest, clinging to her belief that misfortune will inevitably follow, he reassures her with a calm certainty that he will never die. Brushing off her concerns with an almost playful arrogance that leaves her speechless, forcing her to confront the possibility that perhaps, just perhaps, she is not the curse everyone believes her to be, and as he finalizes his registration with her, an act that seems so simple yet carries the weight of a decision that could change everything, he uses his appraisal skill to gauge her true nature, noting with interest that her affection level has already begun to rise, a stark contrast to his experience with Marion, whose feelings had remained unmoved despite all they had shared, and as he contemplates this difference, he realizes the power of perception, recognizing that by elevating Lily above her competition, by subtly making her believe she was chosen over another, he had tapped into the psychology of attraction, a strategy that worked so effectively it almost felt unfair. But as he revels in his success, his companion can't help but question if they had truly targeted the right person, a thought that lingers in Haruchika's mind as he reflects on Marion once more, realizing that her situation was different, her feelings unshaken by the tactics that had worked so well on others, leaving him to wonder if his carefully constructed strategies would always yield the results he desired or if, in the end, there would be someone who remained beyond his grasp. Haruchika moves forward with confidence as he observes Lily's affection level steadily increasing, reassured that things seem to be progressing smoothly while his playful guide teases him about the predictability of an herb-gathering quest, an overused staple in isekai stories that he acknowledges with mild exasperation. But rather than taking an easy shortcut by using Jibril's ability to instantly produce the required herbs, he insists on gathering them properly, knowing that trust must be built through sincerity rather than deception, a decision that bewilders his companion yet demonstrates his meticulous approach to relationships, and as he embarks on this seemingly trivial task, Lily remains at the guild, grappling with deep-seated fears and the bitter memories of past failures, haunted by the belief that she is cursed, that any adventurer she takes charge of will ultimately meet misfortune, a belief reinforced by cruel whispers branding beastkin as liars. And though she had sworn to never take responsibility for anyone again, Haruchika's unwavering confidence in his survival had sparked something fragile within her, a hesitant hope she had long since abandoned, but the moment of doubt lingers as senior guild members mock his inexperience, laughing at the fact that despite his bold demeanor, he could only register as the lowest rank and was left with nothing but an insignificant beginner's quest, though their amusement quickly turns to curiosity when he confidently returns, standing tall and unshaken, calling Lily's name with a bright and genuine smile that catches her completely off guard, prompting her to rush toward him in a flustered panic, her ears twitching anxiously as she bombards him with frantic questions about his well-being, her worry so overwhelming that even Haruchika is momentarily taken aback by the depth of her concern, realizing with a mixture of amusement and strategic satisfaction that her affection level must have skyrocketed from the sheer intensity of her emotions, but as she collapses in visible relief, unable to hide how deeply she had feared for his safety, he finds himself momentarily thrown off by the raw sincerity of her feelings, forcing him to wonder if his calculated methods are beginning to stir something unexpected within himself, and though he tries to brush it off with laughter, he cannot deny the warmth in her gaze as she looks up at him, nor can he ignore the way she hesitates when he invites her to dinner, her heart caught between uncertainty and the longing to be by his side, a hesitation that fades when he gently admits that eating alone feels lonely, a simple statement that resonates with her more deeply than he could ever realize, leading her to accept with a shy yet hopeful expression as the distance between them continues to shrink in ways neither of them had anticipated. Lily smiles warmly as she exchanges the herbs for money, her playful remark about Haruchika being a helpless person laced with unexpected fondness while he waits for her with unwavering patience, prompting Jibril to question whether Lily accepted his dinner invitation too easily, but Haruchika, ever confident in his methods, asserts that he deliberately guided events in this direction, explaining that girls like to teach and feel useful, and by subtly presenting himself as someone in need of guidance, he nestled himself within Lily's protective instincts, ensuring her growing attachment, a strategy proven successful as her affection level steadily rises, and as she emerges later in a more elegant outfit, her demeanor shy yet eager, Haruchika observes her with quiet amusement, thinking to himself how much cuter she looks while their dinner together unfolds in a surprisingly intimate manner, their conversation flowing effortlessly beneath the glow of lanterns, culminating in a peaceful walk through the dimly lit streets where Lily walks beside him with an air of quiet contentment, completely unaware of Jibril's delighted exclamation as she monitors the skyrocketing affection level that now reaches an impressive 70, leaving Haruchika smugly assured that at this pace, he would soon achieve complete success in capturing her heart. But his confidence shatters the next morning when he arrives with a self-assured smirk, only to be met with an utterly cheerful Lily, who greets him with the same warmth as before yet now radiates an unshakable distance. And as he glances at the floating screen displaying her current affection level, he feels the ground slip beneath him as he stares in utter disbelief at the impossible number before him, 0.